So, some songwriting advice for beginners. I think a lot of people have a mental block with songwriting and they kind of think of it as being very difficult. And I think the first step is just to stop thinking of it in terms of difficulty. It will probably always be difficult in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Your standards will increase and you'll set a higher standard for yourself, and it's not something you can ever really achieve true kind of perfection in, or you can always improve. So I don't think it's helpful to think of it in that way. I think early on in particular the best thing to do is just to not assess the quality of your work, really, to not think of it like that. You'll inevitably have your own feelings towards it and there'll be things that you like, but I think if you are having that mental block and you think you can't write good songs or you just can't write songs at all, you don't have ideas, then yeah, try to remove yourself from any feeling of whether or not they are good, and understand that it is a practice. It's something you have to practice. And even songs I wrote years ago that I thought they were so good that I wouldn't record them because I thought it was a waste to record them at the time. I thought it was, I thought I needed to wait until I had better access. And now I don't even, I won't even record them. I don't, many of them anyway, they're songs I don't even care about at all anymore. So there can be a level of preciousness, I think, over things that is misplaced, and it can lead to uh, a kind of a feeling of being paralyzed. So I think, yeah, it's best to just write as much as you can. Try to enjoy writing as much as you can. Allow it, I think, personally. I mean, this advice doesn't really apply to people who already feel they have some degree of confidence or that they kind of have gotten started. But I mean this more for people which I frequently hear, people who kind of just like say they just can't do it. Anyone can do it. I mean, to varying degrees. You can literally write down anything. You can write down nonsense. Like you can write a song. Maybe you can't currently write a good one or one that you like or are happy with, but that is what I'm saying is often an obstacle for people. So yeah, I think really generally it's good to just try and write as much as you can. When it comes to this refers to lyrics, by the way. I should have said. It applies to a lesser extent with songwriting in general, but yeah. So try to just write as much as you can and just keep moving forwards. Don't spend too much time looking back at these songs you've written and wondering, are they good? Should you keep them? Should you keep all of it? I mean, there's no reason to ever delete any of it. You don't have to show it to anyone. No one has to ever see it. It's a work in progress. It's not. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be good to have value for you and to be an important part of your creative journey. I don't know why this keeps like lighting up suddenly. By the way, I look like oh yeah, it's gone down again. Yeah, I had some sort of like religious experience unbeknownst to me just now. So yeah, don't. It, I look back on early songs as being so important, and sometimes I'll write something now that I know is good and that I know uh, I will always be happy with. I've gotten to a point now I'm fairly confident I can assess, really whether or not something's good and not be blinded by my own biases. And I'll make things now that I really, feel very strongly are good. And I hear things I wrote years ago in these songs, and I think, okay, it wasn't a waste. Like the fact that I never released that at the time, it wasn't a waste because it really is a practice. And there's a very false notion of people kind of like running out of songs, and people can definitely run low on kind of creative energy or stop being interesting or get burned out, or yeah, some people they just sort of a lot of the time I think it really is to do with the lifestyle people are living in. There are a variety of reasons. I think a lot of very famous artists who had a really successful period and then kind of declined and people stopped enjoying their work. obviously countless famous examples of that. And I think a lot of them, to be honest, it's because in the 60s and 70s, a lot of artists were doing a lot of speed and stuff like that. And uh, Bob Dylan said, for example, he had to, when he wrote Blood on the Tracks, which I think is his best album and maybe my favourite album, he said that, maybe not favourite, but I'd say it's definitely one of a handful of the best albums and certainly best examples of songwriting. And he said that when writing that, I believe this was in reference to this album, that he said, I had to learn to do consciously what I'd always done unconsciously. And a lot of people have this same trajectory where they were really big for years, and then they seem to kind of settle down and have families. And I don't think it was the settling down and having families and doing all these things that necessarily led to maybe their songs not being as good. I think a lot of the time people were just they were taking a lot of drugs to enhance their energy levels, creative capacity. I mean, there's countless examples. Obviously, like Bowie was pretty much coked out for like all of the 70s and everything, and he doesn't even remember a lot of those albums. And you can kind of see, well, he got sober and he made lots of really great stuff, but you could see that maybe there was a period where he had to kind of quieten down and recuperate. And I think obviously, you know, impending death was in his case a very big motivator, admirably so. But I think what he also showed with that album is that there's not really any such thing as running out of songs. You don't only have so much. Like he had it, and then arguably, in some people's eyes, he kind of lost it to some degree for a while, and then he came out with Black Star, which was incredible, I thought, and he also was still working on stuff after Black Star came out. He was writing more songs, which is kind of crazy. I mean, all of the circumstances surrounding that album are pretty amazing, but yeah, I think that idea is false. And like Bob Dylan said, you know, he was able to, something that may have been very effortless and easy for him in the past, but he didn't lose it, and he made Blood on the Tracks, and he's made a lot of other stuff in later life which has been really great. So I wouldn't try when you can to try to remember, if you're early on in writing songs, that you'll write so many, and it won't matter if these ones are good or not. I mean, if they are good, then great, and if they're good, you'll remember them, and in 5 years you'll hear it in your head and you'll be like, oh, I need to record that one. You know, that was a great song. If it's not that good, and or if you forget it, it's probably not that good. You know, or it depends how many songs you have, really. But yeah, I would really try to see it as a harmless practice with no downsides. There's no pressure. There's no reason to. If something is bad, if something is good, you write something good, that's great. If you write something bad, it's just neutral or good because you've had practice, but it's not, you don't lose anything by writing a bad song. So just finish your bad songs, you know, like just do it and try to just get used to finishing things, and you might slowly, they'll start becoming less and less bad, and then maybe you might look back and say, oh, actually one of those ones I thought was bad is actually kind of good, and I can see that now. I have a bit more, you know, confidence, or I've changed it a bit or whatever. But just don't allow yourself to get bogged down in self-criticism or any kind of negativity in that regard, because it's just pointless, really. It's not going to push you forward. So just try to focus on constant forward movement, and, you know, not worrying about it too much, and let whatever comes into your head come out. Just get used to that. Get used to turning on that tap and getting out of the way, in a sense, you know, because you've consumed so much music over the years. So much of it is in your subconscious. If you can just get used to just allowing it to happen, whether it's good or bad, then some really good stuff is going to come out of your subconscious, hopefully. So yeah, just try to enable that process as much as possible.